welcome back to Digital Assets Daily. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in your corner of the world. Brian Brooks states, not all cryptocurrency projects need to be regulated. And from his perspective, it makes a lot of sense. So Brooks spoke out during a discussion on the institutional adoption of digital assets at the SALT online conference. He referred to his own experience, saying, I don't start with a regulation. I start by asking, what are we doing here and what aspects should be regulated, he said. And I do not believe that everything that happens in the cryptocurrency world should be subject to the supervision of banking or securities regulators. And it makes a lot of sense. If you're looking for the USA to continue to lead from the front instead of from behind. And that makes a lot of sense if you want to keep the technology here in the USA. Let's specifically go dive right into Ripple, because that's the king of the crypto, so to speak. Because what is the focus right now is the Ripple law case that's going on. This case of giant allegations that just seems to be never ending. And, we're going to get into that here shortly into the video. And, I'll save my thoughts for that. But we will come back to that. And I want to get deeper into that discussion here in just a few minutes. But I think he's absolutely correct. And Brian Brooks has been on all sides of this. And I think his position where he is, as a former OCC director, he's learned a lot. And I think he's very wise in his decisions. And into the next article, the Bitcoin Taproot upgrade is bigger than you think. And what I find interesting on this is, let's go back into the discussion just briefly for a moment, that the Ripple lawsuit with Ripple and Bitcoin getting the free pass, and stating in the sense that, they're finished products, so to speak. But if it's a finished product, where would a finished product continue to have upgrades? I can kind of bounce on both sides of that, but just, for a moment and a perspective of discussion, Bitcoin Taproot upgrade is bigger than you think. It is upgrading Bitcoin as you have Ethereum getting a continued upgrade, as they both seem to get a pass. That's one side. But now on the other side, it is bigger than you think, as it says. So beginning of November, Bitcoin will undergo a major upgrade known as Taproot, and Taproot will upgrade Bitcoin's back-end code, increase privacy, transparency, and fungibility, and improve Bitcoin's smart contract functionality. So after Taproot, the Bitcoin network will support decentralized finance applications, Oracle input data, and simple executable scripts. And again, all day long, you can connect them as well to, for example, XRP and XLM, Ripple and Stellar Network, because as Bitcoin had always had trouble with speed and security, you could always throw those on the Ripple and the Stellar Network, and it's going to move much, much faster. Also, too, I wanted to bring up the ABRA announces a 55 million USD in Series C funding. And of course, I'm a fan of ABRA as it connects back to Stellar as well. So diving into that, ABRA Series C financing will enable the company to further expand its world-class product team into new offerings for wealth management, trading, and payments, scale its marketing team, and develop the company's fast-growing high net worth and institutional sales offering. So congratulations to everyone at ABRA for that as well. Also, too, I think there's so many details in this one. Let's give it, I can bounce all around again on this perspective too, but let's say what I think would be good is if they win this and prove that this is a nothing burger, as they say. The next article, Binance under investigation in the U.S. for possible insider trading. I mean, you can be all over the board with that. We don't have clear regulations, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? I have so many thoughts on this one. My main thought is this. We want Binance to win because we don't want to continue to have the crypto space, the digital assets, continually beat down and just constantly under investigation, under inspections, under, scrutiny, the spotlight. We need to get this clarity so everybody can move forward. It can be a global, like, here's the clarity. This is how it works. Here's a security. Here's your commodity, your currency, etc. This is defined. Here's the microscope. Are you this? Are you this? Let's just get that moving forward. But I hope that they beat this. CZ's done a lot for overall for the entire space. And he has an interesting story of success himself, which I've found pretty impressive and amazing as well. And we used to use Binance until you could no longer use it in the US. And I think it's still a good place to get assets for the people who can. I've never had any problems with them. And I found them, personally, this site was easy, more of a professional site. If you're new to the space, I think you're probably going to enjoy, Coinbase. That Coinbase.com, I think, is the separation versus Coinbase Pro. And if you're used to the Binance and you're not even aware of Coinbase additional options, or if you move on, you're more experienced and you like the other platforms, more of a professional platform, you also have the Coinbase Pro. It'll be the exact same information as your little Coinbase app or your Coinbase.com, as they tend to call it. You can log into Coinbase Pro as well. Coinbase Pro has a few more digital assets, cryptos that are not on Coinbase.com, but you use the exact same log information. You have one account, you actually have both, even if you do or do not know that. So that's something you check into, but be very careful because it is, if you're not used to that, if you're just brand new to the entire space, Coinbase Pro is more of a professional platform. And, if you're not used to that, be very, very cautious and careful. But it would be worth it, just to take a look and see what other options you have and assets you can get into. But always do your own research. We try to help you with research here and share our personal journey along the way. So whether it helps you with your own, that's great. We're not here to determine that for you. No input as far as, in your investment. That's not what we do. We're not investment advisors, but we are here to share our personal journey and to share the news basically globally that we, let's just explain it this way. Everything that we feel affects our investment and our trade. We don't trade here. We're long-term holders. We buy and hold. That's it. But if it affects our assets, that's the information we share. And that's kind of why each and every one of you are here. Most of you are invested in the same assets. We're on the same journey together, both paddling in the same boat, so to speak. So I think, you're interested in the same news that I am for the reasons that I'm invested as well, again, on this journey together. And another moment too here is China's facing its potential Lehman moment and Wall Street is unfazed. So the risk is that the Evergrande collapse, and that's a pretty, big deal. If you're not aware of that, you may want to do a little research as well. And you can, as always, if you're familiar with this channel, every single news article and link that we discussed will be available in the description below. You can scroll through there and click on the link and read further into them. And for example, this here, some of the links, you'll see them highlighted in blue if you're not familiar. Just click on that link and it's going to send you to learn about that. But if you're not aware of Evergrande, the Evergrande collapse, you may want to come back to this article, read it, click on the Evergrande collapse, come back and read this article again so it makes a little bit more sense. But it's not insignificant, and that, might be something that if you follow the news pretty closely, you might want to check into as well. We may come back and discuss that, but it's not something we're entirely focused on. It's just something that we know and are aware of. But diving into the article just a bit, it says some fear that an Evergrande collapse has systemic risks on par with the impact the disappearance of the Lehman Brothers had on the U.S. stock market. Ed Yardeni, president of Yardeni Research, wrote in a note to clients Thursday, and like Lehman in its heyday, Evergrande is huge, suggesting that a default would be widely felt. Company has over 200,000 employees, raised more than 110 billion USD in sales last year, and has more than 1,300 developments, according to Reuters. So that's the, sticking to the theme of this article, that's the reason a lot of people are shocked that Wall Street is unfazed, because it was expected to send, no pun intended, or I should say, yeah, no pun intended, that the ripple effect around the world. So having spoke of ripple, let's just kind of come back and dive into this, and we'll move along a little quicker from here on, because we don't have to really go into the articles. If you're aware of this channel, you're going to be aware of the discussion we're getting into. But I want to make a few points from these headlines of perspective and the thoughts that flashed through my head as I read them. So Ripple keeps thriving outside of the U.S. despite SEC harming its domestic businesses. And we've little tricky discussion there. We've kind of stayed away from this, the discussion on that, trying to stay into the news. But there's sometimes it's unavoidable, and we have to kind of speak up and share our thoughts and opinion publicly outside of just the video. And this week is probably, that I can remember the first time we've kind of dove into the discussion that's happening all around. But it's realistically, it's impossible not to at this point, because, and, I'm very cautious with sharing a lot of my thoughts. It's just, there's so many factors and there's so many perspectives. It's easy for me to be on all sides of those and have a discussion of them. But to stay on point, Ripple keeps thriving outside the U.S. despite SEC harming its domestic business. Let's just go there and stay on point. The discussion, Brad has always said, SEC has hurt retail investors significantly with this attack. I'm not going to assume any thoughts or reasonings that they have for that. That's not what I'm here to do. But just factually, it has hurt a lot of retail investors significantly, as we had seen the XRP starting to do well again, and then on Jay Clayton's, I believe it was even the last day, on his way out, kind of tossed out this little lawsuit, and then XRP from the SEC started tanking. Not only did it start tanking, then it was like delisted in the USA. Many of the exchanges, even globally, then started delisting. So it's not insignificant. It was had a very massive impact on XRP itself, on Ripple, on every single retail investor that had invested in XRP, the virtual currency, as the IRS had stated. And we've shown in video from a few years ago in their speech that they had. But it is a massive thing, as basically, like Brian Brooks was getting into the conversation with Ripple thriving outside the U.S. That hurts the U.S. because that kind of pushes us behind. And Ripple, it is a necessity for the future of the currencies, with the cross-border transactions and with the enterprise, institutional, and wholesale market. And there's a significant portion of Ripple's business that's even outside of the U.S. But can you imagine if we get the clarity that we need, or I should say that Ripple needs for the USA, how well XRP would start doing even here in America? So it's pretty significant. Let's get into the next article as well. Ripple's legal team says they have no plans to settle with SEC over lawsuit and XRP sales. And they're very, very confident they're going to win. And if you're paying attention, I don't know, and I'm meaning from the SEC, or obviously we're going to get into more of that, and I'll save for the next article. But if you're paying attention at all, it's nearly impossible to say that Ripple is any different than BTC and ETH. So if you have Bitcoin and Ethereum, full clarity, and the reasonings that they gave them the full clarity, as I stated, or I should say as the news and the Ethereum executives have stated in video over and over and again, that they had the clarity that they needed. there is absolutely no reason that Ripple and XRP should be in the position they are now with all these lawsuits. It should be dropped immediately, instantly, because Ripple from day one has connected to regulators. Who's on their staff? Look back to, when OpenCoin became Ripple, when Ripples became XRP. Take a look back from that moment forward. Even if you wiped history beyond, to the moment it became Ripple, to the moment it became XRP, when those names were what everyone knows them as today. From that moment forward, look at all of the regulators, all of the attorneys, all of the people involved on the executive team, on the board, on, every possible connection that they have, they've tried to follow correctly. And that was why Ripple and XRP took so much hate from the Bitcoin maxis. And I don't say that in a sense of like a derogative perspective. I'm just saying those were the major coins, years ago. Go back 2015, you don't even have to go back to 2012 or beyond. So say around 2015, it was even back then, there was like, Bitcoin is it. Ethereum was a new guy. And even in the market for them, where they weren't very excited there as well. But with Ripple, they were always hated because they were stated to be so centralized, because they were working with the regulators. So think about that. They were one of the only, maybe even still the only ones who have worked so closely with regulators to make sure they were doing everything correctly and everything right. And again, if you take a look, XRP, XLM, Ripple, and Stellar, again, I have shown over and over again, Ripple's more focused on the institution, the wholesale, the enterprise, and Stellar is more on the retail, unbanked, and underbanked. Of course, they intermingle. They have the capacity and the capability. Ripple's more of a cross-border focus, where Stellar is more of a network, and it's massive and does more. Not going into that, we're beating a dead horse, so to speak. If you're on this channel, you understand what we're trying to say, but the focus that it has is so significant for the financial institutions. They can get rid of the Nostro Vostro. They have that instantaneous settlement. I mean, you're talking 3 to 5 seconds versus 3 to 5 days. Of course, here on this channel, if you followed it, but for the new people, that's still very, very significant, as the Nostro Vostro, they have so much liquidity just tied, their hands tied on that. They could free that up. They could release it. They could let it go using the Ripple pool. They could just continuously send, currency on whatever asset they need from one end and receive it on whatever they need on the other. Instantaneous settlement. I mean, what more do you need there as well? Now, in the final article I'll discuss, Ripple and XRP propped up by Republican senators as they push against SEC's scheme. So even the senators are starting to push back and go, this is just out of control. Like, this is too much. It doesn't even make sense anymore. But, we kind of went through the, we watched as much as we could. And then and I'm glad this article actually mentioned Senator Pat Toomey, because if you saw that, it was pretty amazing. And I'm still blanking. Feel free to tag me if you're watching this video. I'm blanking on the other senator who said, basically to Gary, SEC's Gary Gensler, are you trying to be their daddy? But I think just Pat Toomey has like a really smooth, like a really just calm, like way of his discussion that I was just amazed by. And I thought he was just hitting some really solid points. Let's scroll down. Just really one I want to throw out, where he was stating basically, Chair Gensler insisted again in today's testimony that the securities laws are clear and easily understandable for the crypto market, and then turned around and said Congress needs to write laws to clarify. So which one is it? Thank you, Senator Toomey, for being a voice of reason, he said. And that's another thank you from this channel, because it was very, basically very entertaining from this side to see someone with the same mentality and perspective that we as retail investors have held as well. And it's very clear. I think, it has to be very soon where I would say this game has to end. I'm sure Ripple feels the same way. It's pretty much out of control already. But, when I think back, if you go into the laws and you go into history, remember that Congress has the power of the purse. Congress determines currency. So Congress could easily come in and clarify this, as we already know, because we've shared the video of IRS stating XRP, the virtual currency. And even from the 2015 FinCEN settlement, we've shown again where they had labeled XRP as, again, the virtual currency. So is there clarity? It's hard to really misunderstand that, but at the same time, the other guys write the law. So I would expect there to continue to be, headbutting like the Rams until there's clarity. In my perspective, the way I'm viewing this, the way it seems like it could happen any which way. Conversations, in private could change a lot of things. But again, the clarity might even just come from Congress. There's been so many, like laws that have tried to pass, some that are like on the edge of it, that could, settle all of this instantaneously and just shut down this entire lawsuit. But we'll see how this goes. We've shared even recently how they're trying to put out more, laws of clarity that would make a global, or I should say that would create a global reaction to this, and it could easily launch it again. And again, I'm trying to come back this, for some reason, I was going back into, editing the video, and I realized it had lost the last 10 minutes. This video didn't intend to go so long, but I was sharing so much opinion, and after this article we just finished discussing, then as I was getting ready to, upload the video in final editing, I realized the entire ending. So my apologies if this ending feels a little bit abrupt. Man, I just kind of dove in and spilled my heart on that one, so to speak, and then a little bit crushed that for some reason it had dropped out and I did not catch it. So my apologies for that. But I think this, it went further than I had expected. We try to keep it quick and to the point, but I wouldn't call it venting, but I just wanted to extend these articles on my perspective. And so there we have it. And again, guys, remember, this is not financial advice. It's for entertainment purposes only. And again, my apologies if this ending feels a bit abrupt. It really is. There was so much discussion, but I can't even really get back into it. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I can come back in the next video and, kind of refresh with a different perspective from where this one was ending. So either which way, guys, much love to each and every one of you. And I want to say thanks to Surfmeister, our VIP on Patreon. And again, each and every one of you, if you hear my voice, you're very special and very appreciated on this channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your support. But before we go, as always, I want to leave you with a final thought. When everything feels like an uphill struggle, just think of the view from the top. Much love, and we will catch you in the next one.